Using a MIDI keyboard will allow you to record melodic ideas very quickly, as well as allow you to test drive new synths and presets. It is a good idea then to connect one to your computer as soon as you can, so you can start using its functionality within FL Studio. Other MIDI equipment works in a similar fashion, but MIDI keyboards are the most popular equipment used, so for the purposes of this video, we will be using a MIDI keyboard for our demonstration. First of all, it's important to realize how MIDI works. The way it works is when you input on a key in the MIDI keyboard or say on a drum pad on an MPC machine, that sends information through to your computer which then translates into action on synthesizers, generators and effects. What you want to make sure is that your keyboard is connected to your computer via USB and via a USB cable. Once you've done that, you want to make sure that your MIDI keyboard is enabled for use within FL Studio. In order to do that, you simply go up to your Options menu and click on MIDI Settings. There, you'll then find a list of all of your MIDI output as well as MIDI input settings. Your MIDI output is often used for things like playing back MIDI patterns and so on, and you'll be looking mostly at your MIDI input panel down here. As you can see, we're using the Axiom Pro 61. Sometimes you might get several different options for MIDI input, so it's important to make sure you try enabling all of them before reporting that you have any problems. So here what we've done is we've enabled all 4 of these, and the top one is the one that actually allows us to use MIDI input. Now that you've connected your MIDI keyboard, let's have a look at how to use it in FL Studio. MIDI mapping can be useful for all sorts of different things, not just playing along synthesizers, but also for doing things such as controlling knobs, switches and controls. For instance, in FL Studio, we can close this MIDI control panel, open up our channel rack, and add in a synthesizer such as Harmless. As you can see in here, we've got loads of controls which we can then MIDI map to our MIDI keyboard. So I'm going to play back some notes and you'll see the keyboard below light up as I play those notes on the keyboard. As you can see, as I press the keys on the keyboard, it then lights up. But what we can then do is I've got extra controls on my MIDI keyboard which I can then map to controls within the synthesizer. You do this by using this button up here at the top called Multi-Linked Controllers. What this enables you to do when you hit this button is you can then tweak one of the controls that you want to link to your MIDI keyboard. For instance, I'm going to link it to the filter frequency, a classic control that a lot of people want to use. I simply click on this and tweak it, and it registers that as you can see at the top. Then what I do is I simply tweak one of the controls on my MIDI keyboard in order to link it to the filter frequency cutoff. And there you go. You can see that now when I tweak this control on my MIDI keyboard, I can then control it in FL Studio and I get a very smooth action. What this means is then when I play back notes on the keyboard, I can then control the frequency cutoff and do all of this without using FL Studio and keep my mind entirely on using my MIDI keyboard. I'm just now going to demonstrate this for you as I play along a few chords and melodies and riffs whilst tweaking the filter frequency cutoff at the same time. As you can see, this would be a very useful feature for live performance, but it's also very handy if you want to record in your MIDI, primarily using your MIDI keyboard rather than drawing in MIDI patterns yourself by hand. With your MIDI equipment installed, connected and working, you can now use it to speed up your workflow in FL Studio and link these parameters to it. Using these MIDI features will allow you to manipulate FL Studio to a greater level than you might be able to without MIDI equipment. So make good use of them if you can.